Hello, everyone. My guest today is Wayne Johnson. In 2012, he co-founded Encompass Corporation, a SaaS business driven by the belief that the best decisions are made when people understand the full picture. As CEO of the company, he's led the creation of the company's Know Your Customer automation software for the banking, finance, legal, and accountancy sectors. Wayne, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks, Nathan.
All right, good. So tell us more specifically, what does the company do? Maybe give a customer example and how do you make money? Is it pure play SaaS?
Yeah, it is. It's we service the legal market, the accounting market, and the banking market. For those organisations, when they onboard a new customer, they've got to go through a series of manual checks to work out who they are, do they conform to their requirements, and do some research before they can onboard them. That's a costly process. So this area of regulations, technology is really about reducing the cost of that compliance requirement.
Okay, and what do customers pay, call it on average per month, would you say?
For a mid-term legal size company, probably around in US dollars, $5,000 a month for the platform, ranging up to financial services company starting at $25,000 a month, or up to around $150,000 a month.
Okay, do you feel like $5,000 though is a fair average across the base?
You know, it probably is. There's some, they all have the same problem, but some are smaller organizations where their customer base is primarily regional, whereas the larger firms have an international customer base, and that causes a lot more issues, more data required to do the job. And so that's probably a fair, reasonable average across the market.
And Wayne, are there any other kind of elements that allow you to drive expansion revenue? Is it just number of seats, feature set? Are there any other metrics that drive the expansion?
Primarily feature sets. You know, we solve a part of the onboarding problem, but we also solve part of the when an organization gets an alert about a potential financial crime, they've got to do some research. We solve that problem, and we're adding components to the product like automated news research and so on, which once again takes cost out of their process and gives us opportunity to upsell new features in the product.
And you said in the bio you launched the thing in 2012. Where were you at that state? Is this your first venture, or have you sold many companies? Where were you?
Yeah, I've done a few of those in the past. I guess I've been in technology for most of my life. We've built technology in Australia and taken it internationally into Asia, into the US, partnered with partners in the US to distribute the technology, and exited out of a company in Hong Kong and exited out of a company in Australia. So, in fact, after that exit, I took some time off, and my business partner and I invested in a few things, one of which unfortunately went sour. And as a result of that, it led to the idea of a great visualized due diligence product to be able to bring information together to find out things you need to know about people you deal with. And that led to the KYC solution.
Tell me more about that, because that's a great, discovery story, right? So how much money did you lose in that thing that went downhill, and what was the nuance around that?
You know, Nathan, it's pretty painful. It was millions.
Okay. Of your own money or investors?
Of our own money. And the reason was because we just didn't have the detailed background of those people involved in different parts of the transaction. And we stopped and thought, where do you get this information from effectively when you want to do business? And, you know, it lives in registers and it lives in companies all around the place, but you've got to pull it together in a way that makes sense, and you've got to do that quickly. So we built this visualization technology that reached out to government registers, government agencies, property databases, valuation databases, bankruptcy databases, to pull it together visually and do it quickly to make a quick decision. And we found that lawyers started to use it, banks started to use it for personal due diligence, and that evolved into our KYC product.
And Wayne, what was the transaction that you were trying to get done that failed?
It was a property investment. It was a property subdivision, a company that we were actually funding, providing some mezzanine finance for, and then found out after we provided the finance that things weren't right. So we decided to take the project over, and things got worse from there. So, you know, interesting and painful story, but nevertheless, it was the genesis of how we could bring this corporate information together to solve this problem for us and for others in the same situation.
And then, so you were obviously your first customer. How long did it take you to build the product and get your second customer?
You know, we built a video, Nathan, and we took the video to people and said, would you buy this? And we got the feedback, and we just kept on editing the video until we got to something people said, this is a really great idea. And then we took it to a partner who was in the business of supplying this kind of data to a large group of legal companies in Australia. We partnered with them, we built the product, and we rolled it out with them. And that was the beginning of our success.
Did you give them a kickback? That sounds like an early channel strategy.
Yeah, it was. And we did a revenue share deal on top of the selling, and, you know, that evolved over a period of time, and we grew our business on the back of that. We changed our pricing model a few times, and eventually we did a great deal with them where they become the exclusive distributor for that product in that country, and allowed us to take the product into other markets quickly.
And what have you scaled to today in terms of total customers?
There are around 250 customers currently on the platform.
Okay. And so obviously you're at a price point where you can afford an inside sales team. How many team members do you have today, and what's your sales team look like?
Sales team, the primary sales team is based here in London, and there are 20 people in the product and sales team here in London. We have a back office with around 30 people in Glasgow who development and customer success, and a development centre is still in Sydney. So around 70 in the company with there'd be 12 in direct sales.
Okay. And can I do is this math correct? If I take the 250 customers times that minimum $5,000 per month ARPU, you guys are north of $1 million per month at this point, correct?
We're not quite there yet because we've still got some customers on our older product, which are a lower price point. So we're building it out right now.
I see.
Yep.
When do you think you cross $1 million a month? Will it be this year?
It will be early next year on our current projections.
Okay, that's great. And what does growth rate look like today? So if you look at the past 12 months, how much have you grown?
Around 34% last quarter, and I think it was just on the same number, 32 or something like that for the quarter before that. So growth is pretty good for us.
Okay, so like if we go back to June of 2017, what were you doing at that point, and what have you grown to today?
We don't really disclose revenue numbers, so I can give you growth numbers, but we don't disclose revenue.
Okay, save me from doing the quarterly to annual conversion. What was the annual growth rate?
We really look quarterly. I guess annually to be close to. From this point, we're nearly at the end of this quarter now. Working backwards on that, that'd be, around 100 over 100%, over 120% if I had to do that.
120%. Okay, that's great. No, that's great. That's great growth. And where's most of that growth coming from? Is it onboarding new customers or expanding current ones?
Primarily onboarding new ones, actually. And we've got, our strategy is both direct sales and indirect sales. So we're now signing up partners to distribute the product in certain regions. So that strategy is starting to contribute as well.
What's the incentive structure look like on that? Is it a 30% kind of in perpetuity on sales they drive? What does that channel structure look like?
It varies from channel to channel, and also the position that the partner has. Some of them have significant install base, and therefore it's they're on board, and we split the revenue on a 50-50 basis. Others we've done some white
in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Because it's a great deal for them, but it helps us to get significant growth as well.
And so what percent of your current revenue was driven through a channel partner, would you say?
Look, it's only just started, so currently probably less than 10% of that revenue comes through them. However, if I add in their original revenue from our partner in Australia, that deal that I've talked about earlier on, that would probably take it to close to 20%.
Okay. So meaningful, but not where there's, not huge, not the majority of your revenue.
Not yet, but I think if we looked over time, that's where it's going to come from. That's where the growth is going to come from for us.
Yep. So obviously the kickback you're paying to these partners are included in your CAC. When you look at your fully weighted CAC, where are you hovering around, and how do you think about that number?
It's still too high, is the honest answer for that.
Well, what does that mean, though? Like, that's what I want to know.
Well, I guess we're looking to try and drive that number down to customer acquisition costs so that we recoup their value in the first 12 months.
And what are you at now?
Still, we're well over 15 to 20 months at this point.
Okay.
So we've still got a way to go bring that down.
Yeah. So, if you take the 15 months times the minimum 5 right now, that's 75 CAC. You're trying to get that lower.
Yeah, that's right.
Where is that $75,000 minimum you're spending to acquire customers? Where are you spending that? Inside sales, you've mentioned, channel partners, you mentioned, anything else?
No, I think that's the primary area. We've really ramped our sales team, spent a lot of time on and a significant marketing budget to get our position. We're in a market where we bring automation and robotics to an area which is primarily manual. And so in some ways, our competitors are really the manual process. A lot of education we've got to do. So a lot of that cost goes into educating the market and creating that position for us.
Spending that kind of money to bring on customers is great if your bucket doesn't leak at all, but everyone has churn. Tell me what your churn is and how you think about mitigating it.
Our churn actually has been very low. I think partly because for larger customers, they use our API to connect, and that's a commitment. For the smaller customers, they end up using our product to manage their portfolio of customers and monitor that. So it gives them to be quite sticky. So our churn rate is really around 3%. And so it hasn't been a concern for us.
Is that 3%? Is that gross logo churn per month?
Yeah, that's not per month. That's per annum.
Okay, got it.
We really have had very, very low churn.
But is it logo or is that a logo or revenue churn?
That's revenue churn. And a lot of that comes down to the investment we made in our customer success team, which we did from the very beginning. And that team has really monitored and stayed close to our customers and driven a lot of the product strategy as well.
So I think you also said that was a gross number, right? 3% gross revenue churn annually?
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
If you add back your expansion revenue, are you net negative?
We have back expansion revenue. We're net negative. No, we're not negative. We're growth.
Well, no. Net negative churn would be growth. That means
yes. My apologies. Yes, net negative.
Sorry,
yeah. Correct.
There's too many pluses and minuses and backs and forths where it's hard to keep all those things straight. But you are a net negative at this point. Your expansion more than covers your churn.
Absolutely.
That's great. Last question here on economics before we move on. Lifetime value can be a dangerous number because it can lie to you very easily. What is your current lifetime value and how to use that to guide the business?
That's an interesting question. How long are they going to stay with us? We're in a market where change in some parts of our market, particularly in the financial services sector, change is hard to achieve, and therefore you can expect them to stay with you for quite some time. And so that will probably have a different profile than our mid-market and our legal products. But, we can guess, but to be honest, we're just guessing at this point in time what our lifetime value is.
So you don't really use it to drive the business. It's not important.
Not really. No, I mean, we put it in our metrics and we can make some estimates, but it's not a reliable figure.
What do you assume a customer is at least worth to you? Like worst case scenario, they're worth more than what?
I think if we took the mid-market customer, they're probably a 7 to 8 year customer, and the larger ones are even longer, particularly once they've used our API to integrate. Because what we do is we aggregate data from probably 100 different suppliers. And that adds significant value and reduces their costs and gives us a point of contact that they will continue to use us for that data aggregation. And that's once you're in that sphere, it's hard to have that removed, particularly when you've got the ability to not just aggregate the data, but bring it together in a single structured view, which adds a lot of value to the process.
So Wayne, 7 to 8 years at $5,000 a month. I mean, that's north of $400,000 in lifetime value. That's worst case.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Okay, interesting. Last question. Have you raised capital or are you bootstrapped?
No, we raised capital. We've done it in small pieces along the way. I guess everyone's got a different capital story. Starting in Australia, where the market for capital is a lot more immature, I guess, than what the US market is. We started with the typical family and friends investors, grew that to high net worth individuals, and then a number of family offices. And now we've got some institutional investment from an investment bank here and some others. So, but we've raised it not in structured series, but just along the way.
So how much total have you raised?
Around just under £20 million. So I guess what's that, about $28 million US.
Yep. No, that makes good sense. Very good. Well, Wayne, let's wrap up here with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Experience My Brand from Joe Torfik. It's a great book about customer experience.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
There's not really. There's a lot I admire, but none who I'd say I'm actually following.
Number 3, besides your own, what's your favorite online tool for growing your business?
I guess I spend more time in Salesforce. It's a pretty boring thing to say, but I probably spend more time there than anywhere else.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
6 on weekdays and 9 on Sundays.
Okay, Andrew. Okay, so call it average, 7-ish, weighted average. And what's your situation, Wayne? Married, single, have kiddos?
Married and with kids, yeah, that's right.
How many kids?
I got 3 and they're adults, but great kids.
And how old are you, Wayne?
I'm 56.
Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
That things will work out a lot better than you expect, but it's just harder work. That's probably the thing that I would look back and say to myself. They will work out in the end. Then don't worry, you'll get there.
Guys, there you have it from Wayne. Things will work out in the end. Focus, you'll get there. And look, he's lived that story. After a successful exit or 2, he then lost millions after a deal went south because he couldn't do proper due diligence. He decided to build a tool to help the legal, finance, and other industries do diligence at scale and effectively. Launched a channel strategy right from day one with a big partnership in 2012. Now over 70 full-time folks, 250 customers, doing south of $1 million per month right now, 3% gross churn annually. That's revenue churn. $75,000 CAC, 15 to 20 month payback period. So healthy economics, again, based between London and Sydney, helping these folks do diligence at scale. Wayne, thank you for taking us to the top.
Appreciate the time. Thanks, Nathan.